Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the April 28th, 2022 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. and at this time I open up the floor to public comments. Hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on then to agenda item number 3, and I'll call on Tammy Bennett to discuss resolution 2022-6.
Morning. Finance is requesting approval of 2 budget resolutions. The first one's for Records Improvement Recorder of Deeds Fund. It's increasing expenses by $147,808. That's based on Act 32 of 2002, where we have to transfer any unencumbered funds remaining in the Recorder of Deeds Records Improvement Fund to the county record improvement. In the second resolution, the general fund, we're increasing revenue and expenses by $725,000. That's for the Rails to Trails grant.
Any questions for Tammy? I'll ask her to continue then with agenda item number 4, which is a discussion of the preliminary fiscal budget for 2022-2023.
Finance is requesting to put the fiscal 22-23 budget on view. The fiscal budgets were built based on estimates on our state funding that we expect. However, children and youth budgets based on their certified needs-based budget. The budget is a total revenue budget of $59,853,303 and total expense budget of $59,949,008. And grants make up about 80% of the fiscal budgets, with subsidy being 12% and other being about 7.8%.
Any questions for Tammy?
No.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then to agenda item number 5. Agenda item number 5, which is resolution 2022-7. And I'll call on Commissioner Eichelberger to discuss.
Okay, very good. We have a resolution before us. I want to talk just a little bit about this. This is in regards to the ongoing issue that is faced this county and many others in terms of the reductions and inadequate funding that's been made available for community-based mental health services. These are a major responsibility of county government. And we have since 2012 faced a considerable deficit in regards to changes that were made by the state in terms of funding this and other human services. And for some time now, the chickens have been coming home to roost, and the situation was extremely aggravated by certainly the COVID situation, and we are now really feeling the brunt of these reductions in a manner that really impacts Cumberland County, maybe disproportionately because we are the fastest growing county in Pennsylvania over the last 10 years, which happens to correspond to when the changes were made. So we've had a number of discussions on this over recent weeks as our mental health IED director has outlined the situation for us as it pertains to Cumberland Perry area that our joinder serves. So we obviously, as I mentioned, are facing some severe short-term dislocations as a result of the pandemic. Some of these things we're fully intending to, I believe, based on the discussion, to address through Federal Rescue Act and other recovery monies that'll address the near-term need. But this has really brought to the surface the long-term and ongoing problem that this represents. And it is, as I said, more pronounced here, not only because of our growth, but at least in part because of the fact that we have great proximity to what was once the state hospital that served this area, which closed. Robin, do you remember what year that was?
2006.
2006. Okay. And because of that proximity, we've had an outgo folks into the community for which the state provided limited funding, but it was insufficient at the time and has not followed the trend line. So this has been part of a systematic withdrawal of responsibility by the state government over quite a number of years on this issue. But that's aggravated the situation here. We've attempted to address that in a number of ways. And in the last few years, our state association, the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, has made this replacement of this funding a priority. It is now the number one priority of the legislative agenda of our state association. And accordingly, in overlaying with our discussions and actions here on this, CCAP, Human Services Committee member Jeff Eggleston, commissioner from Warren County, has initiated outreach statewide, which is exactly the way this needs to be handled, to mobilize counties for collective action on this issue. And we were provided with a request to pass a resolution and then to follow that resolution up with public and legislative contact, which is a logical follow on to what we're going to be discussing today. We have a draft resolution. Well, I only have one question I want to mention here. Robin, maybe you could help with this. In paragraph 3 of the suggested resolution, there's a reference to the 2012 Commonwealth cuts. It mentions specifically that $84 million was removed, and it specifies the intellectual disabilities, mental health challenges. I believe that was the amount of the entire human services cut, not specific to MHIDD. Is that correct?
I don't know about the total. I know that for our MH office, it was over $1 million that was cut.
Right. Okay.
For just the mental health piece.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't know. I can't answer for the entire thing.
Okay.
I apologize.
I would like us to be accurate, but it's worded in a way that we probably acceptable because it mentions the funding base. It's just that we have a lot of service needs that have been shortchanged by the Commonwealth. This one's the most pronounced. And it does bear mentioning that we also, I think that was the same year that the cut was part of the block grant that we are a participant in. So it's not as if all those dollars disappeared. They just came back to us in a lesser amount and allocated in a different way that gave us some discretion. And as you heard, those of you who were attending the meeting last week with our human services departments, at least according to Jack Carroll, I didn't hear any disagreement. The consensus among everyone is that the block grant still is a net gain for us, I guess, because of the flexibility involved. But that does not mask the fact that we are facing a severely stressed system now. And the Commonwealth has not, the legislature has not provided adequate attention. So it's our goal to undertake collective action with our fellow counties to try to communicate that this is a priority item for counties. It is a high cost item for counties in more ways than just financial. With the inadequate replacement dollars, we have instead had to absorb the impacts of the crisis in different ways. We have folks who have gone untreated, and these costs don't go away. They are, as economists say, externalized. Somebody else bears that cost. For us, it tends to be our prison. At the community level, could be police forces who are preoccupied with dealing with mental stress cases disproportionately. Certainly communities have various impacts as a result. And probably the one that's least talked about is just the opportunity cost, which is those things that are lost to us as a community by diversion of dollars and diversion of the creative energies that folks who aren't in treatment cannot bring to us and be a net plus to the forward progress of our community. So these are enormous impacts that are really go beyond the dollar amounts that are attached to it, but dollars are where we start. So I'm grateful to Jeff Eggleston for taking the lead on this issue with the association. As I mentioned, it does dovetail with plans that we have. We've had considerable discussion already in regards to how we can change the dynamic on this issue over the long term. But we do have an immediate need, some of which we can meet through ARPA, some of which we cannot. So we are going to be looking at this resolution, and I hope follow up with it. And I don't know that we need to read this into the record or anything of that nature if anyone wants to reference pieces into it, but it does mention a handful of things that the state funding has lagged far behind the needs and caseloads. It mentions specifically the 85.7% increase in suicide deaths. That's just from 1919 to 21. 80% increase in the 302 petitions over that same period. That's a very short time frame compared to the actual degraded funding involved, but it does point to an escalation of the stress on the system that we have, some of which we can address with, as I say, with ARPA money, some of it we cannot. But we need a long-term fix, and I'm pleased that CCAP has seen fit to make this a major issue. CCAP, of course, is a bipartisan organization, and it's made up of rural, suburban, and urbanized areas of this Commonwealth. In fact, this is the #1 legislative issue, again, speaks to the breadth and depth of the issue that we as counties face on this. So it is very encouraging to see collective action in the making on this. So with that, we do have this on the agenda for discussion and possible action. It's resolution 2022-7. And I'd like to open the floor to any additional discussion points, facts, questions. Robin, so I imagine you could probably answer just about any question that commissioners can come up with, other than the one I asked. So, but that's all right. That's a long time ago. So with that, I'll open the floor to discussion on the resolution that's proposed.
Well, assuming that we pass it, and I'm going to assume that we are, I'm really glad that this is moving forward. It is really, it's been a long time in the making. I am wondering, assuming that this is passed today, what is our plan to get this out in the press?
There is a news release that was drafted.
There is both a press release as well as a letter to our delegation.
Okay.
And the resolution will be attached to both of those and sent accordingly.
Then Jeff has outlined for us the idea of the resolution, also provided a draft, which we appreciate and use, but it is very much a draft of our own making as a county. The news release is set, certainly can be subject to any modification at this point, but we would like to certainly expedite its distribution. And then, of course, the follow-up with our legislators, it would be mailed to them, and then we would have collective action on contacting them to emphasize that this is a priority item and something that we take very seriously. So that's the follow-up plan and the resolution. I think the news release is not included here, but I believe it's distributed by email. So I don't know if we need action on that formally, so we can address that separately.
I have one follow-up question on putting this out in the press. Are we also sending this to the representative out of York County who made that horrible speech about not funding any mental health funding? Because I would like to see it go there for the record. I'd like to see it go to him.
I have no objection to it being a copy being provided to him. I think some other counties have also initiated direct contact to him as a result of some comments that he allegedly made.
Yeah, I'm fine with doing that. I have no questions or comments. Mine were made a while ago, so I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-7. Cumberland County Board of Commissioners requesting appropriate funding to support the stress and mental health system for fiscal year 2022-2023.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. There's a note for the record, and we will follow up promptly with the additional steps. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on then to agenda item number 5, and I'll call on Anna Yelp, who is here with us to discuss a letter of support regarding the Central Pennsylvania Conservancy's land acquisition project. Anna?
Thank you. Hi, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Anna Yelp, Executive Director of Central Pennsylvania Conservancy, and wanted to just reiterate the letter that we had mailed to you notifying the county of our submission of a proposal to DCNR for the land acquisition of 916 acres of land in the South Mountain region, spanning both Cumberland and York counties. And we also requested in that letter that the commissioners consider a support letter that we could submit to DCNR that would support that application. I hope that, upon reviewing the details of the project, you'll agree that this is a significant project to advance the conservation and recreation goals for the county. It's a big opportunity for CPC. That this property of Camp Tuckahoe has been on our priority list for protection for many, many years. We are presented with an opportunity because the Boy Scouts of America are presented with pressure to sell the property. They have mutual goals to create a wilderness buffer around their camp, and that is consistent with goals of protecting land for conservation in this region. It's prioritized in and designated woodland conservation in both municipal and county comprehensive plans, as well as designated by the county for conservation in the future land use map. A lot of great conservation, ecological values, and recreation values involved in protecting this property. So hope you'll consider extending your support for the proposal, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. One detail, and it's not a small detail, is the fact that there's an appraisal that has been commissioned. It is in process right now, and it's due the first week of June. So that is going to shed a lot more light on the values that we'll be seeking to raise to acquire this property.
Yeah, and how much of that 916 acres is in Cumberland?
So it's 546 acres in Cumberland. I have a map here if you'd like to review the division line.
Is York County supportive of this as well?
Yes, they had already submitted a support letter from the York County Planning Commission. There's 369 acres in York County. So they had responded to that request already.
Okay, thank you.
Are there commissioners going to weigh in on this?
I'm sorry?
You said the planning department there. Are there commissioners going to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think that's the next level that we
start
have
there.
plans to meet. Mike Summers on the Boy Scouts of America board, has some contacts with York County commissioners, and he has offered his support to meet to join us in a meeting with them. So,
This really is a legacy project. It's an excellent project, and I'm so glad that you're involved in it and brought it
Thank you.
forward.
It's a big project for CPC, so but I think one well worth pursuing.
Any questions? Any additional questions for Anna?
We're not looking to action on this today.
No.
The deadline
We'll have
is
action.
June.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
First week of June would be the deadline.
Great. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, Anna. We'll move on then to agenda item number 7. I'll call on Tammy Hershey to cover the contracts and grants.
My apologies for interrupting. Item 6 will be an action item for Monday.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just want to make sure, sorry. Thank you. Okay.
All right, agenda item number 7, numeral 1 is existing contracts, contract extensions or addenda with no additional cost or increases to the county. There are none, so we will move directly into agenda item number 7, numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. I will begin by calling on Kim Wynn to discuss the contract for aging and community services. Kim?
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Caregivers America will be providing in-home services for our eligible options clients in the county. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Next, I will call on Eric Renovich to discuss the contracts for District Attorney FOD. Eric?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm digging that new color in the Commissioners' meeting room there. Very nice color. Great job. So this morning, two contracts before you. Number one is for an individual named Lacey Miller. This is a contract to provide expert case review on crime scene work. Lacey Miller is an experienced crime scene investigator in the Washington Highway Patrol, and it's an individual contract for a flat $50 an hour to review crime scene work.
Yeah, it seems to have one more.
I was gonna say on that one.
Go ahead,
Do you
Eric.
want to continue, Eric?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Okay. And the second one is for Ron Smith and Associates. It is for ongoing consulting and technical reviews for our lab accreditation. This was a contract that was originally provided from a grant from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency that carried it for 4 years. It was awarded through a competitive bid to the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Association. Carried it for 4 years on a grant. Now we're picking it up, and it's for laboratory accreditation, consulting, technical reviews, provides all of our ongoing support for accreditation, keep our ANAB 17025 accreditation, provides on-site reviews and all of our work that needs to be done.
I would just want to point out that on the process form, there's a typo in the contractor name, and that should be fixed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Eric, while we have you, would you continue on, please, under agenda item number 12? You have a capital project.
Certainly. So we applied for a grant application under the Covered L Forensic Science Improvement Grant. It's a no match grant for $148,246 to purchase 4 items, a 3D image and collection system for a crime scene, an upgrade to our existing Arrowhead full spectrum imaging light system, a wide format color printer to be able to print the data, and an analytical balance for the chemistry section. So it's covered through the grant.
Any questions for that? Thank you, Eric.
Sure. And only chemists would get excited over getting a new balance in the lab. So they're all wound up about that. Thank you.
Next, I will call on Ryan Simon to discuss the contract for drug and alcohol. Ryan?
Good morning, Commissioners. Several years ago, the State Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs entered into a contract with JFT Recovery and Veteran Support Services for a recovery and reentry program. At the beginning of the current year, they terminated the contract with JFT and suggested that JFT contact the Commission to seek funding for that program. We included a request to the state for 6 months worth of funding to cover the recovery and reentry program for January through June of the current fiscal year. And the state gave us additional funding for that. So we are asking the commissioners to approve the contract for the recovery and reentry program for the term of January 1, 2022 through June 30, 2022. Any questions?
Hearing none. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Next, I will call on Mark Adams to discuss the contract for IMTO. Mark?
Morning, Commissioners. This is an annual maintenance for our Civic Plus website. It includes hosting and security and support services through them. It's really a routine annual expense for us, $16,503.35. It did go up $371 and change. So
We had a separate contract for that with Claremont, right?
yes, that's
Okay, so that's all right. Did that affect this price at all? The changes in them? Thanks.
Mark, would you also at this time cover agenda item number 12 on the capital?
Number 12, we have a capital project for our phone system. This is also kind of a maintenance thing, but we're taking advantage of the timing to also do an upgrade to our system. So it's including some licensing, and we're also improving, upgrading our InformaCast mobile emergency notification system. So we've been using the mobile piece of that for a little while now for some events like the power outage we had in this Marion building yesterday or earlier this week. And so we're upgrading that, and that will include some enhancements to the administrative side of our notification system, including being able to notify people through desk broadcast messages through their phones, and even some pop-ups on computer systems for emergency events, things like that. So
You're not selling advertising with those platforms.
with that,
You're not selling advertising with those platforms.
no advertising. We're paying good money for it. So the cost, the three-year cost, this is $192,000, split over 3 years, so $64,000 a year, essentially a subscription type service.
Thank you, Mark. Next, I will call on Stacy Snyder to cover the contract for liquid fuels finance, as Kirk was not able to be with us.
Okay, so as you know, Hertzler Ridge is currently undergoing repairs. Once the existing railing and curb were removed, they found some additional deterioration to 3 of the vertical members. Therefore, a change order is required to repair. There are several locations at a cost of $3,860 per location, with a total of $11,580. As you know, Kirk Center does have the ability to approve up to a certain threshold, and this just exceeds that threshold. And so he would like approval on Monday of the change order. He has reviewed it as well as HRG, and they both recommend the approval of the change order. Any questions?
Thanks. I will now call on Robin Tolan to discuss the MHIDD contracts for mental health, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and early intervention, since she was not able to be here today.
Thank you. So the first addendum, commissioners, is for NHS Stevens Center. That is based on a retainage plan that we had submitted shortly after the end of the fiscal year last year, received verbal approval, and only now received, about a month ago, received the actual letter of approval for that retainage plan. So that's for NHS Stevens Center for the Social Rehabilitation Program in Perry County. The other items under intellectual and developmental disabilities on the agenda, the first addendum there is misspelled. It should be life sharing, not file sharing. It is correct on the contract, but it's not correct on the agenda. So I just wanted to make sure people knew that. It's a life sharing contract, PA Life Sharing LLC, Townsville Behavioral Health Incorporated, Bold Incorporated, and Benevolent Heart Assisted Living LLC. Those increases are due to the increases of services that were provided via HIPSIS, and are required then for us to increase the contracts for them to be paid. And then for early intervention, let's see, the 4 items there, Jill Brickber, United Cerebral Palsy of Central PA, Nan Broadbent, and Nicole Custer. Those early intervention services, as you may recall, are a mandated service, and we are required to pay for those services. So there were increases in the service delivery for those as well.
Any questions for Robin?
Thank you,
Robin.
It's nice to see you in person.
Next, I will call on Elizabeth Grant to discuss the contract for planning. Elizabeth?
Good morning, Commissioners. We're seeking your approval today for a contract addendum with Herbert, Rowland, and Grubik in coordination for our countywide action plan for the following supplemental services. The first would be best management practice verification services to be contracted through Chesapeake Conservancy. And that would be in order to prepare for further field verification of specific best management practices that can be identified through remote sensing, and then GIS analysis would be performed. The second element of the supplemental services would include contracting assistance and oversight for construction for best management practice to be installed on Cranes Gap Road, which we are further seeking approval for.
Questions for Elizabeth? Thank you. Elizabeth, would you also continue by covering agenda item number 8?
Yes, thank you. We are seeking authorization to advertise for bid for 2 projects that are funded through DEP's Countywide Action Plan Implementation Block Grant. The first is a manure storage project to be constructed at 200 Ott Road in Shippensburg. And it would supplement the operation of a dairy. The second element would be the conservation landscaping project that HRG would be providing technical assistance on. And this would be at 800 Cranes Gap Road in Carlisle.
Any questions, Commissioner? Elizabeth, may I ask you to continue with agenda item number 9?
Oh, I apologize. I kind of covered them both.
Both, and
I did.
we're fine. Okay, thank you for that. All right. I will now call on Claudia Gardner to discuss the grant for public safety.
Good morning,
Claudia?
everyone. How is everybody? Public Safety is seeking your approval to apply for the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant, known as the HMEP grant, in an amount to be determined. This is a federally funded reimbursable grant passed through PEMA, and it requires a 20% match from the county. The grant spans over a 3 fiscal cycle with periods of performance of October 1 of 22 through September 30 of 25. The purpose of this grant is to contribute to the development and the improvement of the emergency response capabilities for pipeline and hazardous material incidents within the county. The specific items that are eligible that we are seeking the grant funding to cover include specialized training courses and attendance at national conferences for the hazmat team to attend, as well as an updated commodity flow study in the fall of 2024 and spring of 2025. As you know, the risk to the communities posed by the transportation of hazardous materials requires the team and our local emergency planning committee to identify those routes likely to be used and identify the extremely hazardous material substances and plan accordingly. A commodity flow study, as you recall, was done in fall of 2020. It assesses the types and volumes of materials moving within the county and the communities. Especially in the rural areas, transportation poses the only hazardous materials risk in light of the number of incidents that occur. Identifying and understanding those risks and critical components helps the team to be better prepared. It's recommended that that commodity flow study is done every 3 to 5 years. And the intention for doing it in the fall of 24 and spring of 25 is to catch the different materials that are passing through because of the seasonal changes that we experience. All of those eligible items are roughly $50,000. And like I said, it's a 20% match grant. We will be applying for other grants to hopefully cover that 20%, having minimal impact on the general fund. All of the amounts are to be determined and will be specifically outlined in the grant agreement once we receive that, and the PEMA does their formula calculations and tells us what the award amounts will be. So we can have the option to decline or move forward with that then at that time. The application is done electronically in the eGrant system, and the deadline for applications is May 6th. So action is not required today. We can wait till Monday for that. Any questions on that grant?
Thank you, Claudia. Would you also continue with agenda item number 12, the capital project as well, please?
Sure, absolutely. Today's a hazmat day. The capital project item is for the hazmat team. It is to purchase a fit testing machine and all of the things that go with it. As part of the state certification for the team, they have to be properly fitted to ensure that their personal protective equipment, specifically their SCBA mask that they wear, their respirator, is properly fitted to their face. There is a complete testing system to ensure that that is a proper fit and our team is protected. In the past, we've had our own device. However, that stopped working and we were able to partner with the Carlisle Barracks and utilize their machine. However, last year, I believe it was, they switched brands of their SCBA, their breathing apparatus, and it is not conducive to testing our equipment. So now we are at a point where we definitely need to replace the equipment that we used to have. And the price is $15,890. Of that $15,000, $5,200 of it is the 5-year maintenance agreement. And that price also includes all the necessary adapters and batteries and insurance on the device while it's in transit to be calibrated each year. We did get other quotes from 2 other vendors, and this was the best price for the equipment and also a vendor that we utilize very frequently.
Questions for Claudia? And thank you, Claudia.
All right, thank you.
That concludes the contracts and grants. I will now turn the meeting back over to Lisa Snyder.
Thank you, Tammy. Agenda items number 8 and 9 have been covered, so we'll move then to agenda item number 10. And I'll call on Commissioner Foster to discuss appointment recommendations and a reappointment recommendation for the Cumberland County Commission for Women.
So we have 2 women who are recommended for appointments for 3-year terms, effective May 2nd, 2022, and expiring on December 31, 2024. And those 2 women are Rhonda Hendrickson and Sandra Gillio. And then we have a reappointment request for a second 3-year term, effective retroactive to January 1, 2022, and expiring on December 31, 2024. And that a reappointment is for Ashley Walkowiak.
Okay, thank you. We move on then to agenda item number 11, and I'll call on Mary Kuna to discuss the appointment recommendation for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. So the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board had a member step down, just no longer able to serve. Melissa McGowan, who is with F&M, has resigned. We did ask for some recommendations from board members, and she did have a recommendation. Mr. Dave Zimmerman, who is also with F&M, he's a senior relationship manager for their commercial services. She spoke very highly of him, and we reviewed his resume. He has over 20 years of experience in banking and is originally from the Carlisle area in Cumberland County. So we would be asking or recommending Mr. Zimmerman would serve the remainder of Ms. McGowan's term. And then we would discuss reappointing him for another 2-year term in July of 2023. But he would be replacing Ms. McGowan and serving the rest of her term, which would expire at the end of June of 2023.
Any questions for Mary? Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
We've covered agenda item number 12, so we'll move on then to agenda item number 13, which is Commissioner's Liaison Report. And I'll start by calling on Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, a number of items worth mentioning. Of course, we have there was a board meeting of the Board of Advisors for Cumberland Perry NHIDD last week. It overlapped with our leadership Cumberland function participation, so I was not there. I know Perry County's commission was not there either. Several board members were not there, and Annie was not there. But Annie did provide me the written reports, and I can provide those to anybody who's interested in seeing the copies. There's a pretty good overview of a number of things that are going on. I'll just reference a few of them. That is, the department has been working on regular meetings with the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. We just heard from Mary in terms of working on shared efforts for affordable housing in the community. This is on the MH side. I'm sure we'll get updates on that regularly. There's also the participation upcoming in Cumberland has their business professional group with its outdoor fair coming up in May. This is the first they've held it in 2 years. It's Community Day. And the health fair is called Need a Hand, Lend a Hand Health Fair. And the base service unit for MH, as well as the suicide prevention task force that we know as Pulse, are going to be present and represented there. So they continue connecting with the public on very pressing issues the community is facing right now. Real quick, of course, the budget concerns continue to be uppermost on the minds of the advisory group. She did give, Annie gave me an update on some of the case numbers. They are predictably higher, but trending pretty much along the same trajectory that we've noted for some time now. On the IDD side, also, similar type of things, waiting on budget numbers. Let's see, Sue did report for me that the majority of the programs are reopening now that the bulk of in-person contact concerns and restrictions have been lifted, at least for now. UCP, one of their partners, is still has some closed sites at Cancer and Lemoyne. They're going to be reopening to some day programs in the fall, but they're proceeding very cautiously. Some of these are pretty specific. The waiting list numbers are again trending higher. As an example, we have for just the Cumberland Perry area for this year up to the end of February, that waiting list number stands at 277. Last year's number and over the last few years, ballpark, generally the same, about 267 at the end of June, the end of the fiscal year. So this is 277, slightly higher through the end of February. Obviously, that means we still have March, April, May, and June numbers to accumulate, but you can see we're already exceeding the other numbers. This is playing out across the case demands throughout the field. So that problem continues unabated, and of course, that's part of what we sought to address earlier today as well. The governor's budget, as a reminder, includes an $18.8 million waiting list initiative. That's a source of hope, at least. On Project Search, which we've been participants in from the beginning, which provides meaningful employment for some of our consumer population here. The graduation for the current class is June 1st. The applications have just closed for the September class. There are 4 applicants. Interviews will be held next month, and that class begins September 6th. And I imagine we're probably going to be participating again in that. Nice opportunity here, right in our own Cumberland County government building. So that covers that on that side for now. We do have a quick update, recycling, call household hazardous waste event. Last week, we had 293 residents who participated. We actually had some empty slots for, I believe, the first time in that since we began pre-registration. Did have a bunch of folks show up who were not registered, so we were able to accommodate them certainly more easily, but still would like to fill those empty slots. Total of 32,248 pounds of household hazardous waste. 32,248. Paint, again, was the major component of that. 22,401 pounds of oil-based latex and spray paints combined. So obviously we have continued popularity of that event. That's going to be continuing throughout this year. We have June, August, and October events that are also slated. Anybody wanting information, that's well publicized on the website, and we'll be announcing some of those as we go as well. Only other item I wanted to mention was we continue to be pretty busy with Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation. Attended yesterday the second round of interviews for the Economic Development Projects Director, and one additional second interview to go on Friday. been very interesting. We have quite a wide range of applicants, and we're pretty pleased with the quality of applicants we have. Each provided a case study. We're going to be doing a little additional follow-up on the case studies and moving that forward. And I think that's going to be resolved pretty promptly. So looking forward to that and getting our economic development capacity up and running at full speed. The planning groups that I had mentioned earlier are under development. We have names identified. Folks are now trying to just get everything scheduled on that. Monica Gould with Strategic Management Partners doing, again, an excellent job on that. The task force on workforce development that existed for our feasibility study that the county participated financially in last year has delivered their draft report and going to be doing a public session with all the stakeholders tomorrow. I'm hoping to attend that. So we'll get some information on the review of facility needs for the workforce development function as it develops in the county. I know Gary Chicatano continues to do an extraordinary job. He did forward on to me one resume of an applicant for the new transit authority. I asked him to forward those on directly to Kirk Stoner. I don't know if they have more than one. I just saw one. But Kirk has received those now, and he'll be putting that through the vetting process, and hopefully we will soon have a name to bring forward for the SRTA transit group that we are a new member of. That's everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fauci.
Well, good morning, Cumberland County. I went out to the household hazardous waste recycling event and spent some time checking people in and thanking them for recycling their household hazardous waste instead of putting it somewhere where it ends up in the water supply or in the dirt. That was very fun. I will go back and do that again for the next event. Very fun. I will remind everyone, please, to use the library. On April 21st, I went to the Interfaith Iftar at the Islamic Center of PA, and it was to celebrate Ramadan. We all got to break the fast of Ramadan with the group. There were lots of people there from throughout the community. That was an excellent event. April 20th, the Children and Youth Advisory Board had a meet and greet. I was there for that. That was another fantastic event and really got to sit down and talk with some of the people that work for children and youth in Cumberland County. I went to the hearing on Monday morning on the I-80 for the I-83 tolling, and boy, the poor stenographer was late because of congestion. She came in from New Jersey and she was late, so the hearing did not really get rolling until 10:20. We took a 30-minute break, and then at 1:30 I had to leave to be here, of course, because we met with the PJ. But that was a very interesting hearing. It started with an examination of the PennDOT person who heads the partnership. That part of the hearing, it was very interesting, and I am sorry I had to leave because I do know that went until I think 5 or 5:30. And I did miss Kirk's testimony, and I'm sure he was fantastic, as I have heard, but it was incredibly interesting. HATS met on Friday, April 22nd, and a couple of things came out of that are very important. The draft tip will be out there for public comment from May 2nd to June 2nd, and there are going to be some public comment periods, events. So on 5/11 from 11:30 to 1, there's a public comment event, and then there will be 2 virtual sessions, May 17th and May 19th. On the 17th, you can participate in that virtual session from 12 to 1, and May 19th, virtual session from 6 to 7. The I-81 improvement strategy, they are finalizing updates to the website. They will be out very soon, and there will be, you will know exactly what's going to happen on that I-81 corridor, including the design phase of the auxiliary lanes in Carlisle will be available for everyone's review. So more exciting stuff. Good to hear that there's something going on here in the Carlisle area on Interstate 81. Planning, met on April 21st, and the South Middleton Township Comprehensive Plan Update, the South Middleton Township Airport District revisions, and the Newburgh Borough New Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance were all recommended. That was a very quick part of the meeting. Just so that you know, so far for this year, we have 34 plans that went to the planning department for review. And in the month of March, there were 13 of them. And I think, other things. Last night, I was very happy to be at the Cumberland Valley FFA Member Awards Banquet. What a great event. What a great group of high schoolers. Really, they did an amazing job with their presentation. They run the meeting in the banquet. That was super fun. Got to talk to lots of people, meet some new people. This week, I went ahead and participated at the Victims' Rights, 21st Annual Victims' Rights Rally from out of the DA's office. And I went ahead and presented the proclamation also that the Board of Commissioners put together for that event. And then finally, on Saturday, April 30th, at 3 p.m. at the YWCA, the Reentry Coalition is having it's a mixer so that you can meet members of the coalition. It's kind of like their kickoff. So I will be there for that. And if anyone wants information on that, I certainly have it. And that is now all I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner DiFilippo.
Yes, the Housing Authority, Redevelopment Authority that last week. I was unable to attend due to our Leadership Cumberland forum that we all attended, but I asked Mary Kuda to provide an update she sent to the commissioners a couple of days ago. A couple of highlights though, they have a new public housing manager. Her name is Yolanda Hart. She's looking ways to improve processes and also looking to expand the family self-sufficiency program. The Housing Authority Board ratified an MOU, which allows the YWCA to refer individuals to Section 8 for preference. And under the Redevelopment Authority, they were awarded an EPA technical assistance grant and had a kickoff meeting with EPA subcontractors to discuss the overall scope. The Conservation District met earlier this week. They have a new intern starting May 23rd as Chesapeake Bay technician. The tree seedling sale had 426 customers this year, grossing just over $34,000. Two conservation awards were nominated and approved. I cannot announce them publicly because they have not yet been notified, but I can advise my colleagues after the meeting. This year's Envirothon is May 3rd and will be held at the Mechanicsburg Sportsmen's Association in Silver Spring Township. There's 18 teams this year with 82 students participating. And the Conservation District continues to have good success in getting more farmers involved in establishing BMPs for nutrient management programs. CapCog hosted an event late yesterday afternoon, which I attended, concerning the future volunteer firefighter recruitment in Central PA. The new campaign is called Step Up, Gear Up, Volunteer. It was a press conference and it was well presented. A lot of people were there. A lot of volunteer firefighters were there as well. And just a reminder, we have, I think, a site visit on Monday regarding PA Dairymen's Association. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Moving on then to agenda item 14, I'd like to report several executive sessions were held. One on April 18, 2022 at 2:10 p.m. regarding real estate. Another on the same date at 3 p.m. regarding litigation, and also on April 27, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. regarding personnel. Is there any additional business to come before the board today? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Okay, Stacey.